Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Kechidori.
Hi guys, welcome back to another very special episode, and today with me is another podcast host who is out there helping e-commerce business owners do very well in what they do. Chloe, thank you so much for joining us here on the show today.
Thanks, Yeukai. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Incredible. Now, Chloe Thomas is a globally recognized e-commerce marketing problem solver. She has authored several best-selling books, a keynote speaker, advisor, and a host of both the award-winning e-commerce MasterPlan Podcast and the brand new Keep Optimizing Your Marketing podcast. One of the things that stands out for me about Chloe is her love to help business owners find solutions to the problems that they may be facing at any time. And today, we're going to be focusing on e-commerce marketing. And if you are looking to market your business, if your business is e-commerce, you're in the right place because Chloe has been doing this for several years and has got enormous experience when it comes to e-commerce marketing. Chloe, once again, thrilled to have you on the show. Now, to get us started, for those who haven't come across your work or even your podcast, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been in e-commerce for a little while. It's almost 20 years now, which is just truly scary. But I got started in e-commerce back in the early 2000s, working for a UK high street retailer, running their catalogue mailings of all things, so in the world of direct mail. And then got involved in the internet there, then became head of e-commerce for a group of mail order businesses, then launched my marketing agency that I ran for 10 years. We were working both for e-commerce and non-e-commerce businesses. And we did everything from SEO, email marketing, through to Google ads and Facebook ads, which, for the last few years, that's kind of what we drilled down into. And then I sold that 4 years ago, which I found out this morning when the person I sold it to posted that they've been in business now for 4 years. And I was like, whoa, it feels like it was yesterday. And then for the last 4 years, all I've been focusing on is helping e-commerce business owners and marketers to make better decisions, because I kind of learned whilst I was at the agency that I could spend plenty of time helping one person by giving them the answers, or I could help an awful lot more people by giving them the insight, the help, the ways of thinking about things, the advice to help them make their own better decisions, if that makes sense. So that's what I do these days, and I do that, as you said, via the podcast and my books.
Yes, incredible. What has changed when it comes to e-commerce, if you were to look back over the last 20 years that you've been at it, for those who are thinking of coming into the e-commerce world?
Oh, it's changed so much, but yet not at all. In some ways, we're still on the marketing side. We are still doing what we were trying to do 20 years ago, which is to get the right message in front of the right customer at the right time. And we'll still talk about a lot of the same tactics, but these days it's a lot cheaper to do those tactics. Rather than having to spec it out, you can buy often a free piece of software that will do what you're wanting to do for you. So that's where it kind of hasn't changed, is that we're still trying to achieve the same thing. Where it has changed is that the barriers to entry are so much lower than they used to be. On this product sourcing side with Alibaba and other solutions, it's a lot easier to spec and brief and create products now. And then on the other side, with the huge changes that Shopify's made to the space, it's an awful lot easier to start selling. You can be selling products on Amazon within hours. You can be selling products on your own website if you use Shopify or WooCommerce, one of the simpler platforms, in a matter of days. And that's really changed the space. And I think changed the space for the better, because it's forcing us all to give our customers a better experience and a better product. So it's been an interesting ride, but I think we're only moving on to more exciting things.
Yeah. Yeah, incredible. Isn't that fascinating that things are getting better in terms of how to get into the market, but still, you have to know what you're doing to get the result that you desire.
Yeah, it's still not an easy thing to do. I interview a lot of e-commerce business owners for my podcast and for other things I do, and I'm often talking to them about how they got started. And there are no overnight success stories. Every overnight success story you hear about is prefaced by years of screw ups and getting things wrong and missing things out, because it's a really complicated space in which to trade.
Yes. Now let's jump in and really give a very brief. What is e-commerce? For those perhaps who say, okay, am I doing e-commerce? What am I doing? Let's clarify that for them.
Yeah, it's a word which means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I define it as a business, so not a hobby, something you're actually, worrying about the P&L of and trying to grow. So it's a business. It's your own website is what I specialize in. Although, of course, these days, most people with their own website are also selling on a marketplace such as Amazon or eBay. But I focus it on being your own website, and you're selling a physical product is where I focus on. Now, I'm sure a lot of what we're going to talk about will be relevant to people who aren't selling a physical product, who may be selling courses or who may be selling services and various other things. But for me, it's a business selling a physical product via their own website.
Yeah. Awesome. Incredible. One of the questions I often like asking my guest here is knowing what you know now, having done it for 20 years, if you were to go back and start over again, what would be the two things perhaps you would focus on and really hone in your expertise on there for you to get the success you want faster and more efficient?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question, Yeukai, but I like it. I like tough questions. I think if I wanted to be a better e-commerce marketer now than I am, let's kind of reframe your question a little bit that way. I think things I would have really got to grips with. I'd have got a lot more in depth with Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager,
right.
Which I'll be honest, I came to the party, I got to the point in my career where I didn't have the time to fully get to grips with those. So I tend to pay someone else to do the Google Tag Manager and the analytics setup for me. And I wish I'd really got to grips with that myself, because I think there's an awful lot you can unlock if you can do that yourself. And I think something I would have got better at sooner is copywriting.
Right. Okay.
Proper sales marketing copy. I'm great at writing a book, but try and make me write a sales email, and I will clean things before I actually get around to doing that. So yeah, I'd have spent more time working on my sales copywriting.
Yeah. Going back to Google Analytics and tag managing, why is that so important?
Because when you're doing online marketing, everything you do is based on your results. Every decision you make is based on how many sales did that drive, how much traffic did that drive to the website, how did that traffic behave on the website. And if you don't have Google Analytics set up correctly, then the data you're looking at is going to send you completely off the rails. It's going to send you in the wrong direction. Yeah. Likewise, with Google Tag Manager, you can create an awful lot of additional clever information coming in. So you can be tracking when people do specific things on your website. You can add in, email sign up tracking as a very basic one. You can add in reports that come back into Google Analytics for when errors have happened. So if a credit card's not going through, it can report that back into Google Analytics. So then you can see, actually, the problem with the conversion rate yesterday was that our payment provider wasn't working properly. It wasn't because our Google ads were wrong. It wasn't because the email was bad. it was because of something else. And you have to have that full 360 view. And if you're great at Tag Manager and you really understand your analytics setup, then you can A, make sure that the data you're looking at is accurate, and B, you can have all that additional information coming in, so you're making better decisions and you're making the right choices about what you do to improve the business next. And basically without that, you're walking in the dark.
Yeah, yes. We have a saying here with my team is know your numbers, know what is actually happening. And it sounds like that's what you are referring to. And really, without that kind of feedback, you make decisions that perhaps will make you lose money than making money, which you're there for. Are there any specific tools that you recommend on this area before we jump on to the common mistakes that you've discovered people do when it comes to e-commerce?
Well, the thing I would add into the mix, so I'd have Google Tag Manager set up well. I'd have Google Analytics, and then I would add in Google Data Studio, which is a tool you can use, which I found a lot of people finding very useful and adopting over the last few months, the last 9 months, let's be honest, since COVID happened, and that really threw the e-commerce world into a whole crazy space where it's been incredibly busy for everybody as everyone moved to shopping online. And things were changing a lot faster. So Google Data Studio became incredibly useful because you can set up your reports once and your dashboards, and it just auto inputs the data. So you can flip from spending a lot of time creating reports and adding data into spreadsheets to just getting the report delivered once you've built it the first time. And then you can spend that time analysing, making the changes, which a lot of people's reporting frequencies have had to increase because of the impact that the lockdowns have had on consumer behaviour and therefore on e-commerce businesses. So Google Data Studio is the third one I tie into the mix, along with Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics.
Outstanding. Incredible. Let's switch gear for a moment, Chloe, here to talk about the mistakes that you have observed, perhaps you personally have done in building your e-commerce business. Are there any sort of not so obvious mistakes that if people knew that they are committing mistakes, that would change immediately?
I suppose I always, it's frustrated me for many years that this one isn't considered an obvious mistake, but it's one I continuously come across. It's one I came across back when I was, running the marketing agency. It's one I come across with people I speak to now, be it in forums or at events or wherever. And it's that there are so many things we could do in our business that a lot of people will try something once and then give up on it. And success comes from the persistence of optimization, especially when it comes to things like Google ads and Facebook ads. And I come across, Facebook ads are a particularly good case in point. I come across so many business owners and marketers who I will say, wow, your business, it would be surely, if you did this, this, and this with Facebook, that should be a brilliant way of getting new customers. They go, oh, we tried Facebook ads last year and it didn't work. And you're like, but what did you try? Oh, we spent £50 boosting posts over the course of a week. And you're like, and it didn't work. And they went, no. So you've written off the entire Facebook ads ecosystem because a terrible choice of strategy didn't work. Yeah. And it's these tools we use these days. They are so complex that you have to try different strategies. You have to get advice in the first place on what strategy to test, but no strategy works perfectly straight out the box. You've got to tweak, you've got to optimize, you've got to know your numbers, Yeukai, as you were saying, and you've really got to get to grips with what's making the difference and really work it. So the mistake is people trying something once for one day and then going, oh, that doesn't work for us. It's like, that's crazy. It doesn't, no one's perfect at it the first time they try. It's just as you can tell, it gets me quite frustrated.
It is very frustrating. It goes with everything, really. Imagine if when you're starting to learn to walk and you failed first and then you say, oh, it doesn't work, you wouldn't be walking.
Exactly.
Yeah, and in business, really, truly, it's all about let's keep going at it, get the feedback, and do the right thing, and move on. What would be the second mistake, in your opinion, that people could avoid?
I mean, I suppose this is one which it comes down to any business really, but I think it's something which weirdly isn't spoken a lot about, which is have you put together the right parts of the business to create what has the potential to be a successful business model, which is a terrible answer. So let me explain it a bit better.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who's been on the podcast a couple of times and actually talks about why she ended her business. And she was running a business selling tights, as in, pantyhose tights, which women wear, to keep their legs warm in winter. Yeah. And she was able to get customers, and it was slowly growing. But the problem was the product wasn't price point high enough to enable her to make enough margin on the product to be able to afford the marketing to grow the business. So there was a fundamental flaw which she recognized fairly early on, and therefore, stopped the business after, I think it was 12 or 18 months. But many people just persist when they got this kind of fatal flaw in the business. And she had a second fatal flaw, which was she'd gone after some really high spec, really good quality tights, but the problem was the customer group who were interested in that tights was not big enough to grow the business, big enough to support the overheads of her and in space and all those other things you need in a business. And I often find there are people who've got really excited about something, but actually they've not done the maths, or they did the maths and they seem right at the beginning, but then they discovered the cost of acquisition was double what they thought it was going to be, but yet they persist for some unknown reason, and therefore have real problems. So it's quite a fundamental one, but often businesses just get it or don't pay enough attention to actually, is this a viable idea? It's a great idea, but is it a viable business? Can this actually achieve what I want it to achieve? And that, I think, is something which I come across a lot of e-commerce businesses just persisting with a low average order value, which won't enable them to be able to do the marketing to grow it, or a restricted customer base that doesn't give them enough scope rather to grow bigger. Or for the third one, I suppose, is not selling on the blindingly obvious route to market. Some products work great via your own website. Some, it's an absolute no-brainer to be listing on Amazon or eBay or somewhere else. And so you've got to put the product in front of the customers in the right way. And it's just those really kind of, I feel they're really obvious, which I know is a useless thing to say to everyone, but it's those things where you're not kind of taking that step back and going, is my business strategy actually fit for purpose?
Yeah, amazing. The second point you raised up, I faced it, I think, back in 2012 when I was getting started with my outsourcing business, because we had virtual assistants from the Philippines, which meant we could charge fairly low price, but not put the good margin for it. So we were having so many customers, but we were not having any margin for business growth. And I was this close to actually shut the whole thing down until I had a mentor, and we look at our pricing strategy, and everything changed from there. So, this mistake I can creep up on anybody, especially if you're getting started and if you don't have somebody who's holding you accountable, looking at your figures, what you're doing, and what you're getting, and how it's all working. It was a great idea. It was a need in the market, but the pricing structure wasn't right. So for those who are listening, I think this is a very important point to note. And if you need some assistance with that, you can actually reach out to the group, our coaches in the group that will be able to help you with that. Chloe, what should people do instead, to help with these mistakes?
Well, I suppose in terms of the first one I mentioned about optimize, needing to optimize, it's give yourself have a plan of what you're going to test, and then give it the time and the budget it needs for you to enable you to actually test it well. Awesome. And probably have try and have a regular reporting regular reporting rhythm. That's the word I'm looking for, rhythm.
Yeah.
So like every Monday, maybe you look at everything and see how it's doing. Because if you're not even looking at the numbers, you're never going to get around to the optimization.
No.
So have a bit of discipline around that. And on the second one, looking at the fundamentals of your business model, I think this is something which, even if your business model is awesome, you should still be doing, which is to take some time out, get away from the desk, look at the high level of the business, because we can all be guilty of it, especially in years like the one we just had, where you just end up so focused on the detail all the time, you forget to step back and go, actually, is this working as well as it could be at the biggest, perspective? We can get hung up on the marketing and forget about the product, or forget about the, the pricing and so forth. So I think take a step back, and you guys, you rightly said, one of the great ways of doing that can be to have a mentor or to have a friend who you can kind of take away, go somewhere if you can go somewhere, but certainly get away from the desk and have someone kind of sense check what you're doing. Have someone who's going to challenge you and go, look, could you be making more profit here? Is there another customer base we could go after, and so forth, which I think both helps you avoid that error, but also is key to future growth too.
Yeah, amazing. Great answers there, truly great answers. As we are coming toward the end of our time together here, is there anything around e-commerce that you wish people knew that I've not asked you about?
I suppose there's a lot of people thinking of getting into e-commerce at the moment, and I guess the key thing I would say to you is, don't only focus on the website. Please also focus on the marketing, because this is an error that's been there from the beginning, is if we put up the website, people will buy in it. Well, they won't unless you do some marketing. The old adage of, if you put a shop on the high street, then people will walk past it and then they'll come in, because part of your rent is about your marketing budget. Part of your rent is marketing, based on the position you put that physical store. Online, you have to do the work yourself. Even if you're in a marketplace, you still have to do the marketing work to get people to your products. So always remember, you're going to need money and time to do that marketing. So I suppose that would be the other key thing I'd say about e-commerce.
Absolutely. The marketing is the money part of your business. If you neglect it, it's amazing that you can be in the same place for a long time. I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. For those who want to carry on learning from you, or maybe use some of your services, where can they find you, Chloe?
Cool. Well, you can find everything I'm up to and involved in at eCommerceMasterPlan.com. There you'll find the eCommerce Masterplan podcast, where each week I interview a different e-commerce business owner from somewhere around the globe about what they're doing and how they're doing it. So lots of inspiration in that one. There's also the Keep Optimising podcast, where each month we focus on a different marketing method. So you can kind of deep dive with us into a different marketing method every month. And you'll also find there my various books, including the most recent bestseller, E-commerce Marketing.
Awesome. Thank you. And are you on social media at all as well?
Yes, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I'm busiest on LinkedIn. Normally I'm busy on Twitter, but I've just found for some reason they've kicked me off Twitter at the moment. So I'm in the process of trying to become unsuspended. So Twitter's a sore point at the moment, but LinkedIn I'm still allowed to play on. But yeah, we're on that. You'll find the links to our social profiles if you go to eCommerceMasterPlan.com and go to the contact us page, because we've got one for each show and there's rather a lot of them. So I won't bore you by reading them all out. But yeah, we're on most of the platforms and we're pretty responsive on all of them.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, my friend, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise there. And for those who are looking to learn more about this, you can click the links below and we'll go straight to those messages that Chloe has shared with us as well. Thanks, Chloe.
Thanks, Yeukai. It's been a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for inviting me.
It's awesome. And just to point out, we have opened the Lifestyle Mastermind for this year, and we are open for people to register and become part of that. It's going to be great. Some amazing guests from the previous years will be participating in that. You can check out on the podcast or just reach out to the team. They will give you the promo code, which you can use as well. And that is Lifestyle 2021. With that said, we appreciate you joining us and being with us here all the time. Have a great day, and I look forward to catching up with you on another very special episode very, very soon. And goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukai.businessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.